The plate crashed into the wall, just inches from my face. Porcelain pieces scattered like shards of frustration. "Leave now," Maria screamed, already grabbing another plate to throw. "Anthony's the one in charge now. We don't need you anymore," she added. I didn't move, my gaze locked on my stepmother's enraged expression. Behind her, Anthony stood smirking, wearing my father's chef's jacket. It had been my father's pride for 3 decades, but now it hung loosely on Anthony's frame, the faded gold Morocco stitching barely visible. "I'm Isabella Romano," I said firmly. "Until 2 months ago, I was the sous chef at Mero's, the Italian restaurant my father built from the ground up. I spent 15 years in that kitchen, starting as a dishwasher at 13, perfecting every dish, every technique, every secret. But now, with Dad gone, so is everything I worked for." "You can't do this," I said, my voice controlled even as rage simmered beneath. "Everyone knows Dad wanted me to take over." Maria laughed cruelly, her voice sharp as a knife. "Everyone knows. Where's the proof? The will left everything to me, and I've decided Anthony's in charge. You're just the help. And you're fired." I turned my gaze to Anthony, leaning carelessly against the prep station like it was already his. He had shown up 6 months ago, right after my father's diagnosis, suddenly interested in the family business after ignoring it for years. "You've never worked a day in this kitchen," I said, my words biting. "You don't even know how to cook." He shrugged, adjusting the coat. "I'm a fast learner. Besides, it's easy. Follow the recipes, plate it well, and collect the money. Simple." The words stung, like another plate thrown my way. He had no clue what it took to run Mero's. The early morning trips to the market, the long hours of prep, the decades of relationships with suppliers, the family recipes passed down through generations. "You think you can just walk in here and recreate Dad's food?" I asked, the realization settling in. Maria's smile faltered. "That's ridiculous. All the recipes are here. We don't need you." "Those aren't the real recipes," I countered, a spark of satisfaction rising as I saw her face pale. "Dad never wrote them down. He taught me everything, step by step, over the years. What you have are just the basic versions for the prep cooks." "You're lying," Anthony barked, but I saw the doubt creeping into his eyes. "Try making Dad's marinara sauce with those cards," I challenged. "See if it comes close to what our customers expect. Or the tiramisu that won awards for 3 years. See if you can match that." Maria lunged at me, grabbing my arm. "You think you're so clever. We'll figure it out. Now get out before I call the cops." I pulled my arm free, standing tall. "Your restaurant? Everything here, every dish, every technique, every secret came from my dad. From our family, not from you." "Your family," Maria hissed. "I was his wife. You're just his daughter from his first marriage. I have the papers, the will, everything. You have nothing." The words stung, but I swallowed my anger. I reached into my pocket, pulling out my father's lucky coin, the 1943 steel penny he carried with him every day since the restaurant opened. "Dad gave me this the night before he died," I said softly. "He told me to keep it safe, and that I'd know when to use it." I didn't understand then, but I do now. Maria's eyes fixed on the coin. "That belongs to the restaurant. Give it to me." I closed my fingers around it, backing toward the door. "You've got the restaurant, Maria, but my dad left me something far more valuable than property or papers. When you figure out what it is, you'll know where to find me." I left Mero's for the last time, ignoring Maria's shouts behind me. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the Chicago streets, the same color as the faded gold stitching on my father's chef's jacket. Tears finally came as I reached my car, but I wiped them away quickly. Dad had taught me more than just recipes. He taught me patience, resilience, and planning. And most of all, he taught me that sometimes you have to lose everything to come back stronger. 3 months later, I stood in my small apartment kitchen, perfecting the marinara sauce. The familiar aroma filled the air, bringing memories of mornings spent with Dad, learning how to get the seasoning just right. My phone buzzed with a text from Nana, my best friend and a former waitress at Mero's. "It's bad, Bella. They lost the Rosini wedding booking." I wasn't shocked. The Rosini family had been loyal customers for years, and they were one of many who had abandoned Mero's after Anthony took over. His versions of Dad's recipes weren't fooling anyone. Another text came through. "Maria's desperate. 3rd chef this month." I grinned, stirring the sauce. "Let them scramble. The timing was perfect. Dad's lucky penny rested on the counter beside a leather-bound notebook I found the day after his funeral, tucked inside the old recipe box where he told me to look. Inside were his real recipes, written in his meticulous hand, along with a note. For my Isabella, the no raid. Sometimes you have to lose a battle to win the war. When the time comes, you'll know what to do. Love, Dad. The notebook also contained the deed to a small storefront 3 blocks from Marrow's. The place had been empty for years, but Dad had quietly kept up the rent. Even when his health declined, he planned ahead. My phone rang, an unknown number. Isabella Romano. I answered, already knowing who it was. Miss Romano, this is James Wheeler from the Chicago Restaurant Association. I'm calling about your nomination. Yes, Mr. Wheeler. The committee has reviewed your application for the Rising Star Chef competition. We're intrigued by your concept, a modern twist on traditional Italian cuisine. You mentioned looking around my test kitchen, filled with the recipes I'd worked tirelessly to perfect. Dad's timeless dishes with my own modern touches, blending tradition and innovation. That's right, I said. Everything is made from scratch, using techniques passed down through generations. Quite impressive, Wheeler remarked. Especially with your background at Marrow's. I understand there's been a shift in management there lately. That's one way to put it, I replied. Well, Miss Romano, the committee has decided to invite you to compete. The event is in 6 weeks, and as you know, the winner gets substantial media coverage and investment opportunities. I tightened my grip on the phone. I'll be there. After hanging up, I picked up Dad's coin, running my thumb over the weathered metal. The competition would pit me against Chicago's most promising chefs. But more importantly, it would thrust me into the spotlight exactly where I needed to be. My phone buzzed again. You won't believe this, Na texted. Anthony tried making Dad's ooh for a food critic. It was a disaster, and the review drops tomorrow. Perfect timing. The next morning, the Chicago Tribune's brutal review of Marrow's spread like wildfire. A shadow of its former self, the critic wrote. The once magic of Marrow's is gone, replaced by mediocrity and pretension. I was in my new kitchen when Maria finally called. We need to talk, she said, her voice dripping with forced politeness. About what? The recipes. The real ones. Name your price. I chuckled softly. They're not for sale, Maria. And neither is Dad's legacy. Don't be foolish, she snapped, her mask slipping. This is business. Everything has a price. Not everything, I replied. But don't worry, you'll be seeing me soon enough. I ended the call before she could say another word, returning to my prep work. The Rising Star competition was only 5 weeks away, and I had a statement to make. On the last page of his notebook, Dad had written something I now understood. Success is the best revenge, but timing is everything. Wait until they're desperate, then show them what they've thrown away. The night of the Rising Star competition arrived. Chicago's top culinary figures filled the grand ballroom of the Palmer House. 8 chef stations lined the walls, mine directly across from the judges. I tied on my apron, simple, no logos, just the steel penny now fashioned into a pin, glinting in the light. Chef Romano. A judge approached. Your menu concept is intriguing, reimagined Italian classics. I nodded, arranging my ingredients. My father's recipes reworked for modern tastes. Your father? His eyes widened. Marco Romano. Before I could respond, the doors flew open. Maria and Anthony stormed in. Maria's face flushed with fury. She can't compete, Maria screamed, pointing at me. Those are our recipes, our property. The room fell silent. Head Judge Wheeler stepped forward, brow furrowed. Mrs. Romano, this is a private event. If you have concerns. I have proof. Maria interrupted, waving a folder. Documents showing I own all rights to Marco's recipes and techniques. I kept working, letting her make a scene. Everything was unfolding just as planned. Mrs. Romano, Wheeler said firmly, this competition judges original interpretations of classic cuisine. Chef Isabella's menu, though inspired by her father's work, consists of her own creations. Let them stay, I called out, not taking my eyes off my station. Let them watch. Wheeler hesitated, then nodded. Security guided Maria and Anthony to seats near the judges. For the next 2 hours, I cooked with the focus inherited from my father. Each dish was both a tribute and a reinvention. his marinara sauce, lightened with roasted cherry tomatoes, his ossobuco, reimagined with short ribs and modern plating. When I presented my final course, deconstructed tiramisu, I heard gasps from the judges. Even Maria had gone quiet. This is, Wheeler took another bite, closing his eyes. It's Marco's tiramisu. Elevated. Familiar, yet completely new. I smiled, my fingers brushing the penny on my apron. My father taught me that tradition isn't about preserving the past. It's about evolving it. The judges conferred briefly. Wheeler stood. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our winner, Chef Isabella Romano. The applause was deafening as cameras flashed. I saw Maria and Anthony slipping toward the door, but I wasn't finished. Thank you, I said into the microphone. 3 months ago, I lost my place in my father's kitchen, but he left me something far more valuable than a restaurant. He left me his knowledge, his techniques, and his dream of evolution. I turned to face the crowd. And that's why I'm proud to announce the opening of Numero's. Not a replacement for the original, but a continuation of his legacy. A place where tradition meets innovation, where the past guides us into the future. The room erupted again. Restaurant critics flooded me with questions about the opening date. Investors handed me cards. Later that night, in my new restaurant space, I raised a glass to Dad's photo. You planned this, didn't you? I whispered. You knew they'd push me out. You knew I'd have to make my own way. The next morning, Nina sent one last update. Maria listed marrows for sale, without the real recipes, without the soul Dad infused into every dish. They couldn't keep it going. 6 months later, Numero's opened to rave reviews. The line stretched around the block, old customers mingling with new fans. The steel penny hung above the door, watching over the bustling dining room where tradition and innovation met on every plate. Maria and Anthony vanished from Chicago's restaurant scene. Last I heard, they moved to Florida, hoping for a fresh start, but their failure wasn't my victory. My success was. Dad's notebook sits in my office now, its pages marked with my own notes and changes. Sometimes late at night, I imagine him watching me in the kitchen, smiling as I teach my staff the proper way to make marinara sauce. Not exactly how he showed me, but close enough to keep his legacy alive. And in the end, that's what he wanted all along, not for me to preserve the past, but to carry it forward into the future. Every night before service, I touch the steel penny above the door and whisper, "Gry Papa. Thank you for teaching me that the greatest revenge isn't destroying what others build. It's building something better of your own." That's a lesson worth more than any recipe. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.